Okay, so kind of related to this, we are going to talk about kind of mostly water use today, and a little bit more about distribution, a few other things next day. And we've already talked a little bit about water use already, way back, I think in topic 1 that was. And one of the things I mentioned is that a lot of places in the world don't necessarily have access to good water all the time. So there's different maps like this. I know I showed you the maps with the diseases, and you can definitely tell that, you know, for example, traveler's diarrhea and hepatitis A were more common in, for example, Mexico and South and Latin America. So this is a different study. I can't remember which one this was. I just like the map because it was really clean. I keep finding blurry maps. I hate blurry images. It's kind of one of my pet peeves. But once again, Canada is in a pretty nice place to live. We have, according to this map, 85% or more of our population has access to safe drinking water. So that's always good. I always wonder that too. Yeah, I don't know. You know, yeah, that's a good question as well. Argentina, you think there would be? Greenland is, I mean, I don't. There's not a lot of people there in general, and yeah, I don't know. Probably just access to data that they got somehow. Right? Yeah, I was just noticing that now. That's really odd. So this is, yeah, this looks like World Health Organization data. So I don't know. Maybe they didn't have current data or something like that. Sometimes with some of these things, I find that I'm looking for the data, and like the most recent data I can find is like 2005 or something like that. So sometimes it's hard to find the actual data. So something related to water use, of course, is water footprint. So what that means is how much we consume for doing our different tasks, right? So if you think about it, you know, maybe you take a shower or a bath, and some people have a larger footprint, particularly if they're taking a 20-minute shower versus the person who takes the 4-minute shower. I have a nephew who's in Australia, and he's in Sydney, Australia. And so I'm not exactly sure how many liters they're allowed, but per month he has sort of an allocation of liters of water. And if he exceeds that, so he gets, you know, for the first, whatever it is, let's say, you know, a few hundred liters or whatever, he gets charged a base amount. But once he exceeds it, his water bill goes way up. Yeah, so if he was saying like he literally jumps in the shower, gets wet, turns the water off, lathers up, and then jumps out. So, you know, the goal is to try to, you know, use as minimal as water as possible. So anyway, I haven't talked to him in a while about it, but I thought it was just interesting to kind of hear that story because, of course, Australia, particularly some parts of it, have water scarcity and the price is high. Canada, on the other hand, we have lots of water, so our water footprint tends to be relatively high. Of course, according to this map, we're outdone by the Americans, which that seems to be always the case, right? Particularly with consumption. But you know, we're water rich, so it means our water is cheap and our water footprint is a lot higher. So I have some numbers for you here. I know that it's a little bit small, but I guess it looked a lot better on my computer screen in my office. But you can see this is basically talking about the number of liters of water per pound of whatever that product is, right? So barley, 650 liters per pound of barley. It's kind of crazy to think about how much water we consume indirectly kind of through the food we eat, right? Probably no surprise that eating meat is more water intensive because we're, of course, watering all the crops, and then, of course, the animal is eating that food. And so there's that, what's the word I'm looking for? Food pyramid effect, right? Where the higher up the food chain. So if we ate carnivores, it would be even worse, right? We don't eat carnivores, do we? I think I know someone who hunts bears. Yeah, some people eat bear meat. I know I read about one guy who had gone on a safari and ate a tiger burger or a lion burger. I can't remember where or when he was going. And I thought that was unusual, but I guess it's not unheard of. And animal products in general, you can see milk and cheese and those kind of things are a little bit higher. And so, you know, these are concerns, right? I know I was reading about pistachio farming in California. What's going on in California? Yeah, like massive drought. The pistachios, they're really water intensive crops, right? But big money, right? So there's incentive there to use up all the water to plant your pistachios. It makes economic sense, unfortunately, in some cases. So I think I had showed you this map or a similar one as well too, right? In terms of water availability or scarcity in Canada, most of Canada is in good shape. It's actually some of the farm areas that are not as in good shape. So southern Alberta is a lot drier, and some southern parts of Saskatchewan and Manitoba as well have a little bit more water scarcity in them. There's rivers, but less lakes. And of course, there are, it's water intensive because of all the farming as well. I'm guessing, I'm not sure what the scenario there is over in Southern Ontario, probably just the fact that you've got a lot of people. That's the most population dense part of Canada, and you know, millions and millions of people, right? So major threats, I think we talked about climate change as being one of them, and you know, we don't really know where this is going. I've seen all sorts of different predictions in terms of, you know, different parts of the world talking about getting more or less precipitation, or at least less predictable precipitation, which can obviously affect the supplies, right? New contaminants, there's always new things happening, right? My hometown is a mining town. And kind of like the oil sands, it's open pit mining, right? So they, what they had done many years ago is they had drained a lake and built a dam so they could get at the iron in the lake, right? And so they diverted an entire water system kind of around, you know, built a new river or two to get around this where the lake was. And I used to go there when I was a teenager. I'd bike, you know, it was a nice long bike ride, and you know, check it out. It was this massive hole, right? I went there, what was it, 2 or 3 summers ago, and it's filling up. And I was reading in the newspaper that there's going to be a point where like it's full and it's going to spill out into the ecosystem. And the water, it doesn't look good. It's like a weird green color, and there's probably a bunch of contaminants in it. So there's actually, they're trying to figure out what to do about this, right? What are they going to do? There's going to be new contaminants. And these things pop up all the time, right? New contaminants, or at least new knowledge about things that are affecting our health. Algal blooms, you know, happens once in a while. And of course, there's all sorts of other human activities. We're doing things all the time. And, you know, it's good for us to ask questions about, you know, is this going to affect things, right? You know, I know around here we talk about the tailings ponds and what's going on, you know, at the mining sites, and whether that's getting to the river. And of course, you know, the debate rages on. But these are good questions to ask, because particularly if you're living downstream, right, from any development sites. So I think I gave you that number before as well, 42 cubic kilometers of water withdrawn from the environment. That's big. I can't imagine how big that is. So a certain percentage, of course, goes to the public system, right? Meaning that it's treated at water treatment plants. And so that means it's going to homes and schools and things like that. And so that's something to think about as well. And I think I have some of these categories that we had talked about before. So these are the categories I mentioned before, right? The biggest, and remember what was the biggest use in Canada? Not industrial. Not agriculture.
Electrical.
Yes, that's right. So thermal power generation. That's the biggest use of water in Canada. Although a high percentage of that is actually recycled and reused. Yeah, I guess it depends how you look at the numbers. Agriculture is probably number 2. I know it's number 1 worldwide. And most of the water that goes to agriculture, you're not getting back, right? You're spreading it, and it's going into the water cycle, whether it evaporates or gets you know, gets into the water table or something like that.
You say electrical dams as well?
No, usually by thermal generation for cooling, right? Yeah. So the dams, like the water is, they're not using it up. It's just staying in the environment. Yeah. I can't remember whether before I had mentioned the distinction between residential and public. right? So residential is in your house or your apartment. Public kind of means everything else out in the community. So we're talking about schools and colleges and gas stations and laundromats and those kind of things. Sometimes laundromats, because they are a water industry, sometimes they are sort of slotted in the industry section. Sometimes it just depends on where the water is actually coming from, whether they, because some industry, of course, has their own water purification and all that. Whereas your typical laundromat has, 30 washing machines, and they're often considered in the public system. But so there's that distinction, because homes and businesses are, treated differently in a lot of zoning and other ways as well, right? So what else was I going to say about this? I think I actually have a couple of slides talking about a few things like this. But recreation, of course, in Canada, right? If you like skiing or swimming or a variety of other things, that's a big deal, right? Fishing, lots of people like fishing as well. So here's the percentages. I thought that was kind of a cool little graph I found, right? It's not really a bar graph, but it's like I guess it's a beaker or a glass of water. And so thermal power generation, 67%. So yeah, okay, there's the numbers there. So actually agriculture is number 4 in Canada, at least according to the 2013 numbers. I actually spent like 45 minutes this morning trying to find more current numbers, and this was the best data I could find. Stats Canada, they release a lot of different data annually, but it's not necessarily the same data. There was more data released recently about water treatment plants and data around those kind of things, as opposed to water use. But I imagine the numbers haven't changed a huge amount in the last few years. So I would estimate they're probably in the same ballpark. There is the 2005 data. I can't remember why I put this because I already showed you the chart. So I'll just move on. And there's another graph as well. So maybe I like the other one a little bit better. I think I mentioned before as well that Alberta is somewhere around 2/3 to 3/4 of all the agricultural water used in Canada. Kind of blows your mind really to think about that, but we have a lot of beef here, and of course if we're going to feed those cows, that's going to be pretty intensive. And of course a lot of the agriculture in Alberta is in that southern drier area. I don't know what you guys think about Fort McMurray. I think of Fort McMurray as dry. And so if the southern part of the province is drier, like if you look at the amount of annual rain and snowfall here, it's way less than where I'm used to from where I grew up. When it snows here and people complain, not to make fun of you, Courtney, making fun of shoveling their driveway, which has been a little bit more intense this year. Yeah, this year's been a bit more intense. I've run out of places to put snow. I've actually had to start to move my snow piles so I can bring in new snow. But that was like me every single day of my life growing up, right? And of course, ironically, the second I go away to school, that's when they decide to get a snowblower. I don't know if there's some sort of, what that was all about, but yeah, I just remember these snow piles, they were just massive. But again, it depends on where you are, right? So here's just some other numbers. You can see the big circle is showing the amount of water, and there's Alberta with the biggest circle. So interesting, huh? They're not doing any farming up in the territories? No, that's a joke. I mean, we're pretty much too far north to do any seriously farming, right? Never mind when you get up there. Seasonal use, again, you can see there's Alberta there. It looks like we're using most of our water in July-ish kind of zone. I don't know anything about farming, but maybe that makes sense. It's the driest time of the year, so more water needs to be drawn from rivers and whatnot. So what about worldwide? I think I kind of mentioned this already. You can see the agriculture in a lot of places is big. Again, this chart here doesn't necessarily show the thermal electrical, so I don't know why the numbers are different, but I kind of like graphs, so just thought I'd show you another one there. You can see, probably no surprise though, the more developed rich countries actually have usually have less agriculture than others because we have more industry and things like that. I found this one as well too, so I want to talk about a little bit about what's going on in our household. And so this is something that, you know, if you look up the numbers, you'll see that they're kind of different all over the place in terms of what is going on in your household. But I have some estimates here. So, oh, okay. Sorry, I'm just getting ahead of myself here. I'll come back to those next day. Where are the... Okay, I'm missing some slides here. I wonder what happened to them. Let me just take a look here. I don't know what's happened to my... I was reorganizing my notes this morning, and I guess I didn't do a very good job. So, just give me a second here. Oh, they are, okay, they are way down there. I guess I want to talk about the municipality a little bit first. Okay, so sorry about that. I'll just reshare that. So municipal use, like I said, this means public and domestic. So public and domestic meaning household and schools and things like that. And something that I wanted to point out is that leakage is a really big deal as well. Depends on your city and often how old it is. I was reading about Montreal. Montreal, I guess, is, I don't know if that's the oldest city in Canada, but certainly probably one of the oldest cities in Canada. And they make almost twice as much water as is actually used. So they're estimating something like 45% of their water is lost through leakage, through old pipes and just bad old systems that haven't been upgraded in a long time. Something like that, yeah. Yeah, I was on their municipal website and I was just like, couldn't believe it. But again, it just depends on what kind of infrastructure you have and what's going on underground. And, you know, a city like that is, you know, pretty populated and expensive. And, you know, they fix things as they go along, but they're not going to dig up the whole city. You know, it's probably going to take them 30 years to, you know, get around. And then by then, the ones they replaced 30 years ago are going to need new pipes, right? Kind of thing. Okay, yeah, so those are just some notes on that. So I'm just going to finish off on this slide here today. And like I said, we're going to talk about water treatment soon. I want to talk a little bit about pollution and things like that first. But you can see this here is kind of just a different version of that. What did I call it last day? The human water cycle. So you can see that we're taking water out, and you can see there's the drinking water there. And some of it is lost to the environment due to leakage. We're using it for various things. Some of our water goes to two different systems. And this is something we're going to talk about with wastewater, is that we have wastewater that's a little bit more obvious stuff we're putting down the drain or down the toilet. But a lot of our water actually goes into the stormwater system as well too. So if you're watering your lawn or garden or various other things, it goes down the street. And depending on where you are in the city, that could be the same system or it could be different system. Older parts of the city tend to have one sewer system. Newer parts of the city tend to have two systems, one for stormwater and one for wastewater, because we don't need to treat most stormwater. It's just natural water from rain and whatnot, right? But we'll talk a bit more about that when we get, I think that's about topic 8 or 9 anyway. Okay, so thanks for coming out today. I'm going to stop there, and this is sort of a good natural place to stop, and we'll talk about what's going on in the home next day. But
on Monday?
Yeah, next day. So next day is Monday.
Yeah.
I've got one small ask, and if you forget, don't worry. I was just hoping that at least we get a couple people to do this. I meant to do this morning when I had a shower, but next time you have a shower, if you could get a bucket or something, and collect the amount of water you use for 10 seconds. And then time your shower. And I'm just curious how much water we use in a shower. And if you're embarrassed to tell me how long your shower is, we'll just assume everyone had a 5-minute shower. How about that?
All right.
I know, right? Yeah, but I'm just curious to see how different people's houses are in terms of efficiency. If we get a couple people do that, that would be wonderful. So anyway, that's all for today. So I'll see you on Monday, and I'll get these back to you, the test back to you then.
question.